There is a principle that most people never fully understand, and it costs them everything. They spend their lives running after success, chasing it down long roads, working themselves into exhaustion, reaching and grasping and straining towards something that always seems to be one step ahead of them. And the harder they run, the faster it moves away. They never stop to ask the one question that could change everything. They never stop to ask why. Success is something you attract by the person you become. Read that again. Not something you chase. Not something you earn through brute force or sheer desperation. Something you attract like a magnet draws metal to itself. A person of developed character, of disciplined habits, of cultivated mind, draws opportunity, results, and the conditions of success toward them naturally. The work is not out there in the world. The work is in here, inside the person looking back at you in the mirror every single morning. Now think about what that really means. It means the problem is never the economy. It is never the timing. It is never the people around you or the circumstances you were born into. Those things are real, yes, but they are not the determining factor. The determining factor is always the person you are becoming. Are you the kind of person that success would be attracted to? Be honest. Are your habits sharp? Is your mind disciplined? Is your character worth trusting? These are not comfortable questions, but they are the right ones. Picture a magnet lying flat on a table. If the magnet is weak, nothing moves toward it. You can surround it with iron filings, with metal shavings, with everything it should be attracting, and nothing happens. But when the magnet is strong, you do not have to arrange those filings perfectly. You do not have to beg them or negotiate with them. They come. They organize themselves around the force. That is the image I want you to carry. You are the magnet. Your daily habits, your consistent discipline, your mental clarity, your commitment to growth, those are the strength of the field. Strengthen the person and the results. Organize themselves around you. Ask yourself honestly, right now, are you spending more energy trying to manipulate the results around you, or are you doing the harder, quieter work of improving the person inside? Because one of those strategies builds a life, and the other one just builds frustration. One of them produces lasting change, and the other produces temporary movement with no real foundation underneath it. Most people are trying to rearrange the iron filings with their hands. They are exhausted. They are discouraged. They do not understand why success does not stick even when it occasionally shows up. And the reason is simple. The magnet has not been strengthened. The inner work has been neglected. The person has not grown to the level required to attract and hold what they are reaching for. Here is the beginning of a different approach. Stop asking what you need to do and start asking who you need to become. That one shift in perspective, from doing to becoming, is the difference between a life of constant chasing and a life of natural attraction. Do not chase success. Become the person who attracts it. Now, let me tell you something important about the inner work, because this is where most people get confused. They hear become a better person, and they imagine it as something vague, something soft, something without edges. They picture reading a few books, thinking positive thoughts, saying affirmations into the morning air, and that is where they go wrong. Affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. That line carries tremendous weight if you let it settle in. You can tell yourself every morning that you are going to be successful. You can recite every word of every motivational passage ever written. And if you are not backing those words with disciplined action, all you are doing is building a beautiful story inside your head while the real world stays exactly as it was. The inner work is not soft. It is the hardest work there is. It is waking up when you would rather stay in bed and doing the thing you committed to doing. It is keeping the standard you set for yourself when no one is watching, when there is no applause, when the result is months or years away and the discomfort is right now. That is the work, and most people never do it consistently enough to see what it produces. Think about water cutting through stone. The water's not hard. The water's not aggressive. The water does not force its way through. But the water shows up every single day, consistent, patient, relentless in its gentle persistence, and over time it carves a canyon through solid rock. That is what discipline does to a human life. not in a week, not in a month. But over the years, the person who shows up consistently, who does the daily work without drama or complaint, carves something remarkable out of the raw material of their own life. Now understand something important. The discipline is not the punishment. The discipline is the gift. Every day that you honor your commitments to yourself, every morning that you do the work you said you would do, you are strengthening that magnet. You are becoming more of the person who attracts the life you actually want. The discipline is not what stands between you and the good life. The discipline is the path itself. Ask yourself this honestly. Where in your life are you reciting the affirmation but avoiding the discipline? Where are you telling yourself a story about who you are while your actual daily habits tell a completely different story? Because those two things cannot coexist indefinitely. Eventually the habits win. Eventually what you do every day becomes what your life is. Not what you believe about yourself in theory, but what you actually practice in the hours of a normal Tuesday when nothing exciting is happening and no one is watching and you have to decide whether to do the work or skip it just this once. Just this once is the enemy of everything you want to become. Just this once is how discipline erodes. One exception leads to another, and before long the exception has become the rule, and the rule has become the character, and the character has become the life. This is why affirmation without discipline is not neutral. It is not just ineffective. It is actively harmful because it creates the illusion of progress while the real foundation quietly crumbles. Do not build on that ground. Build on the rock of consistent daily action and build slowly and deliberately, one disciplined choice at a time. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever met a person who seemed to attract good things naturally, not because they were luckier than everyone else, not because they had advantages nobody else had, but because there was something about the way they carried themselves, something about their consistency, their clarity, their calm authority that made good things and good people want to be around them? You have met that person, and what you were sensing was not luck. What you were sensing was the result of years of inner work made visible. The major value in life is not what you get. The major value in life is what you become. Think about that. Think about what it means for the way you are measuring your life right now. Most of us are measuring the getting, the title, the income, the recognition, the things we have accumulated, and those things are fine. There is nothing wrong with wanting them. But if you pursue them as the primary goal, you will find that even when you get them, something still feels hollow. Because the getting was never the point. The becoming was always the point. A tree in a storm does not survive because of its branches. It survives because of its roots. You could look at two trees and see almost identical canopies above the surface, similar heights, similar spread, similar appearance. But bring a serious storm and you find out very quickly which tree had been putting its energy into roots that go deep. The one with deep roots bends and survives. The one that spent all its energy on surface appearance either breaks or falls entirely. The roots are what you become. The branches and the leaves are what you get. And every gardener who has ever lived knows that you grow roots first. What are you putting your energy into? When you look at your daily schedule, at the hours of your actual days, at the choices you make when no one is measuring you, what does that tell you about where you are investing your growth? Are you going deeper, building character, building discipline, building knowledge, building the inner substance that will support everything you want to carry? Or are you working only on the surface appearance, the impression, the image, while the roots stay shallow? Now here's what the person with deep roots knows, that the person focused only on results does not know yet. The results come. When the roots go deep enough, the results come naturally, and they stay. You do not have to hold them in place with constant effort and anxiety. They are held in place by who you are. The tree does not have to work hard to hold its leaves. The leaves are the natural expression of a healthy tree with deep roots. Your success, your results, your relationships, your opportunities, those are the natural expression of a person who has done the inner work deeply and consistently. Become the tree with the deep roots. Stop measuring only what is above the surface and start pouring your best energy into what no one else can see yet. That is where your real work is. That is where your real leverage lives. Now, let me tell you something that can be difficult to hear, but it is one of the most liberating truths in this conversation. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to hand you discipline. Nobody is coming to make you focused. Nobody is coming to do the reading, the reflecting, the practicing, the showing up for your own life on the days when it is inconvenient and unglamorous and the results feel very far away. No one is coming. If you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. Let that sink in, because that sentence removes every piece of cover that excuses normally hide behind. It strips the situation down to the honest core. Do you want it, or do you want the idea of it? Do you want the result, or do you want the story you tell about wanting the result? These are different things, and the answer lives not in what you say, but in what you do when the conditions are difficult. Most people are magnificent excuse architects. They build elaborate, well-reasoned structures of justification for why this is not the right time, why the circumstances are too difficult, why the people around them make it impossible, why they will start when things settle down a little. And these structures are impressive. The details are specific. The logic is airtight. But here is the problem. Nobody ever built a life with an excuse, no matter how detailed or how logical. The excuse is always a wall, not a foundation. Now understand something important. This is not about blaming yourself or feeling guilty. This is about something much more powerful than guilt. This is about recognizing that you have the capacity. You have it right now, not later when the conditions improve, not after the circumstances change. Right now, in the exact life you are currently living, with the exact resources and limitations you currently have, you have the capacity to make a different choice, a more disciplined choice, a more intentional choice. A choice that is more consistent with the person you say you want to become. The farmer does not wait for perfect weather to plant. A farmer who waited for perfect conditions would never plant anything. The farmer understands that the seasons are imperfect, that some years will be difficult, that things will happen that could not be predicted or controlled. But the farmer also understands that the planting must happen on time, in the right season, with consistent work, or there will be nothing to harvest. The discipline happens regardless of the conditions. The work happens because the farmer knows what kind of person a farmer must be. Ask yourself honestly, what is one thing you know you should be doing right now that you have been putting off? Not a thing you do not know how to do. A thing you know exactly how to do, that you have known for some time and that you have been choosing not to do because the excuse architecture has been solid enough to make the postponement feel reasonable. What is that thing? Because that thing is not a task. That thing is a test of the person you are becoming. And every day you pass the test by doing it, you become more of that person. Every day you fail it by choosing the excuse, you drift a little further from the life you say you want. No one is coming. The news is actually good news if you let it be, because it means you are in charge. It means the variable is you. It means that if you change, things change. That is not a burden. That is the most powerful position a person can stand in. Here is a truth that can be difficult to hear. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. We must all suffer one of two things: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. You choose one now or you choose the other later, but you will choose one. There is no version of a human life where neither price is paid. Think about what that means over the span of 10 years, 20 years. The person who accepted the small daily pain of discipline, the early mornings, the focused hours, the consistent work when motivation was gone and only commitment remained, that person looks back across those years and sees a life that was shaped deliberately. They see the compound interest of consistent right action. They see what the small daily choices added up to. And the weight of those choices is light because they were made freely, with intention, with the understanding of what was being built. Now picture the other path, the person who avoided the discomfort of discipline, who took the easier choice at each small fork in the road, who found the excuse when the work was hard, who waited for the right moment that never quite came. That person also looks back across 10 or 20 years. But what they see is different. What they see is not just the absence of the life they wanted. What they see is the weight of the regret for all the choices that were avoided. And regret is a particular kind of heavy. It is not just the weight of what you missed. It is the weight of knowing that you were the one who chose to miss it. The bridge is not complicated in theory. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Every goal you have written down, every vision you carry of the person you want to be and the life you want to live, there is a bridge between where you are right now and that destination. And that bridge is made of one material only. It is made of disciplined daily action, not occasional action, not inspired action that happens only when motivation is high. Daily disciplined action, especially on the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. This is why motivation is not the foundation you want to build on. Motivation is wonderful. It can start you moving. It can lift you when you need a push. But motivation is weather. It changes. It comes and goes according to conditions you do not fully control. Discipline is not weather. Discipline is a structure you build deliberately, one habit at a time, until the structure itself carries you forward even when the weather is bad. Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. Now ask yourself honestly, are your goals sitting at one end of the bridge while you stand at the other, admiring the destination but avoiding the work of actually crossing? How many of your goals are still goals today that were goals 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Not because the goals were wrong, but because the bridge was never built. Because the daily discipline that serves as each plank of that bridge was chosen inconsistently, when it felt right, when it was convenient, when the motivation happened to be present. That is not a bridge. That is a collection of planks that never connected. Start building the bridge. Start today with the one disciplined action that belongs to today. Not tomorrow's action, not the big dramatic gesture, not the complete overhaul of your entire life. Today's one disciplined action, then tomorrow's, then the day after that. The bridge gets built plank by plank, day by day, and one day you walk across it without even remembering when it became solid enough to hold you. Do not wait for the pain of regret to teach you what the practice of discipline was trying to teach you all along. Choose the lighter weight now. Choose the daily work now. The bridge is waiting to be built. Now think about this. There is a particular kind of growth that only happens in the quiet hours, in the private moments, in the invisible work that no one is watching and no one is measuring. It is the growth that separates the person who is becoming from the person who is merely performing. And this distinction matters more than most people realize. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Not harder in hours, but harder in intention. Your job demands your performance. It measures your output. It has deadlines and evaluations and external accountability that keeps you producing results. But your job does not develop your character. Your job does not deepen your wisdom. Your job does not make you the kind of person who is worth 10 times the salary by virtue of who they are, not just what they produce. That is the work of self-investment, and it happens only in the private hours. Imagine a locus of light, a lens, concentrating the rays of the sun onto a single point. The sun has been providing light and warmth all morning, spread across the entire landscape, and nothing catches fire. But when the lens focuses all of that energy onto one precise point, the concentrated heat becomes intense enough to ignite something. That is what intentional self-development does to a person. It takes the general energy of good intentions and unfocused effort and concentrates it into something powerful enough to actually produce results. Most people's personal development is scattered. They read a little of this, watch a little of that, attend a seminar occasionally, feel motivated for a few days, and then return to the same patterns. The energy is there, but it is diffused across the whole landscape. Nothing ignites. But the person who concentrates their development with intention, who reads deeply and deliberately in the area they are committed to growing, who reflects seriously and honestly on what they are learning and how it connects to their actual behavior, who builds the practice with the same professionalism they bring to their best work, that person creates concentrated heat. Things ignite. Here is what private growth looks like in practice. It looks like the hour before the rest of the house wakes up when you are at your desk with a book that challenges you. It looks like the honest journal entry where you write not just what happened, but what it revealed about who you are and who you want to be. It looks like the quiet moment after a failure, where instead of defending yourself or explaining it away, you ask what it taught you, and you stay with the discomfort of that question long enough to hear an honest answer. It looks like the conversation with yourself in the mirror where you hold yourself to the standard you claim to believe in, even when no one else is holding you to it. None of this is visible to the outside world. None of it earns immediate recognition or applause. And that is exactly why so few people do it with any consistency. We are trained to value what others can see. We perform for the evaluation, the audience, the approval. But the most important development in a human life happens in the room with the door closed, in the habit that no one is monitoring, in the choice made when the only witness is you. Ask yourself this: who are you when no one is watching? Not who you perform as for the world, but who you actually are in the quiet hours, in the private decisions, in the standard you hold for yourself when there is no external reason to hold it. Because that person, the private one, is the real person. And the real person is the one who attracts or repels the life you say you want. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Invest in the private growth. Build the inner architecture with the same seriousness and intention that you bring to the things the world can measure, because one day the inside and the outside will match. One day the person you have been building in private will become the person everyone around you can see. And when that happens, it will not feel like luck. It will feel like the natural result of the work you did when no one was watching. Let me ask you a question. What direction are you currently moving in? Not how far you have come, not how far you still have to go, but right now, in the daily choices you are making, in the habits you are building or breaking, in the person you are becoming one day at a time, which direction are you headed? Because direction, long before distance, determines where you will end up. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. That is one of the most practically powerful ideas in personal development. You cannot undo 10 years of drifting in an afternoon. You cannot jump from where you are to where you want to be in a single dramatic leap. But you can change direction today. You can make a choice today that shifts the angle of your life by even 1 or 2 degrees. And sustained over years, that 2-degree shift produces an entirely different destination. Think about a ship that leaves one port headed for a city across the ocean. If the navigator makes a small error in the initial heading, just 2 degrees off course, the ship does not arrive slightly to the left of the intended city. After thousands of miles, the ship arrives in an entirely different place. The small directional error, sustained over a long distance, produces a large difference in destination. Now turn that principle in the positive direction. A small course correction today, held consistently, leads to a life that looks dramatically different from the one you were drifting toward. This is why the small daily choices matter so much. Not because each individual choice is world-changing on its own, but because each choice is a vote for a direction. Each morning you do the work you committed to doing, you vote for the direction you actually want to be moving in. Each time you choose the disciplined response over the comfortable one, you strengthen the heading. Each time you read instead of scrolling, you study instead of consuming, you reflect instead of reacting, you pull the course 1 more degree toward the destination you chose. Now understand something important. The direction change does not have to be dramatic to be real. You do not need to overhaul your entire life in a single week. You do not need a complete transformation that exhausts you in the first 10 days and collapses in the 11th. What you need is one genuine change in direction, maintained. One new habit that moves you toward who you want to become. One old habit retired with intention. 1 hour reclaimed from distraction and given to growth. Sustainable and real is worth infinitely more than dramatic and temporary. Ask yourself honestly, is there a direction you have been meaning to change, that you have been postponing under the belief that you need to be ready to change everything before you change anything? Because that belief is one of the most effective traps ever constructed. Waiting until you are ready to do it perfectly keeps you permanently at the starting line. You change direction with the first step, not after you have planned the entire route. Don't spend major time on minor things. Think about your days. Think about where the hours actually go, not where you intend them to go, but where they actually land when you are honest about it. How many of those hours are going to things that move you in the direction you chose? How many are going to things that move you sideways or backward? Direction is determined daily, in the allocation of your hours, in the choices that seem small and routine precisely because they are routine. Change the routine and you change the direction. Change the direction and over time you change everything. Start where you are, point yourself toward where you want to go, and then every single day make the choice that is consistent with that direction. That is not a complicated strategy, but the people who actually do it, who maintain their direction through the ordinary days and the difficult ones, through the seasons when results are invisible and the doubt is loud, those are the people whose destinations surprise everyone who only watched the start. Now, let me tell you something about the compound effect of becoming, because this is the piece that ties everything together, and it is the piece that requires the most faith in the early stages of the work. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines, practiced every day. Simple. Not easy, but simple. The disciplines that build a remarkable life are not complex or mysterious. They are the consistent practice of things that most people know they should be doing but choose not to do with regularity. Read every day. Reflect on what you are learning. Protect your most productive hours. Keep the commitments you make to yourself. Build relationships with people who challenge you. Do the work that belongs to today without postponing it. These are not secrets. They are widely known, and they are almost universally under-practiced. The reason they are under-practiced is that each individual act of discipline is almost invisible in its immediate return. You read for an hour today, and you are not noticeably smarter by tonight. You exercise with discipline today, and you do not look noticeably different by the end of the week. You practice your craft with focus today, and the improvement is too small to measure in any single session. The feedback loop of daily discipline is very long, and human beings are poorly designed for long feedback loops by default. We want to see the result of the effort quickly, and when we do not, we conclude that the effort is not working. But this is where the person who is becoming truly different parts ways with everyone else. They understand at a deep and settled level that the result of today's discipline is not visible today. It is visible in months. It is visible in years. It is being added to an account that does not pay out daily, but that grows with interest, compounding quietly in the background of every ordinary day. And when the account finally becomes visible, it appears to the outside observer as sudden success, as an overnight arrival, as good fortune or natural talent. But the person who built it knows exactly what it was made of. It was made of the Tuesday mornings in February when nothing was exciting and no one was watching and the work happened anyway. It was made of the hours given consistently to the right things when the wrong things were louder and more immediately satisfying. It was made of the discipline practiced not once or occasionally, but as a standard, as the floor below which you do not allow yourself to fall regardless of how you feel on any given day. This is the compound interest of character. Small deposits, made daily, growing into something that cannot be quickly replicated or easily dismantled. A life built on 1,000 disciplined days is a different structure than a life built on occasional bursts of inspired effort. Not because inspiration is wrong, but because you cannot build anything durable on a foundation that shows up randomly. Durability requires consistency. Character requires consistency. The person who attracts success requires consistency. And here is what consistent discipline produces over time beyond the visible results. It produces a relationship with yourself that is fundamentally different from the one most people carry. When you keep your commitments to yourself, when you hold your standard on the days it costs you something to hold it, when you do the work you said you would do, and you feel the small, quiet satisfaction of that kept promise, you are building self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation that everything else rests on. A person who does not trust themselves cannot hold a bold vision. A person who does not trust themselves looks at a goal and already knows somewhere below the surface that they are likely to abandon it when it gets hard. That knowledge is paralyzing. It produces the half-committed attempt, the effort that protects against full disappointment by never being fully invested. But the person who has built self-trust through consistent follow-through, that person can look at a significant challenge and hold the commitment steady because they have the evidence of who they are. They have proven it to themselves in the private hours, on the unremarkable days, in the accumulated record of 1,000 small kept promises. Practice every day. The few simple disciplines, practiced every day, do something that no dramatic gesture can replicate. They build the person. And the person who is built that way attracts everything else. Here is where the entire arc of this conversation comes to its point. And I want you to stay with this carefully, because this is the idea that can genuinely change the trajectory of your life if you let it work on you deeply enough. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Most people spend their energy wishing the path were clearer, the obstacles were smaller, the competition were less fierce, the timing were better, the support were stronger. And every hour spent wishing the conditions were different is an hour not spent becoming better equipped for the conditions as they are. The wish for an easier path is the wish to be less than you could be, because the difficulty is not an obstacle to your development. The difficulty is the mechanism of it. The pilot does not become skilled by flying only in perfect weather with clear skies and no turbulence. The pilot becomes skilled by accumulating hours in real conditions, by handling the unexpected, by making good decisions under pressure, by developing the judgment that only comes from genuine difficulty genuinely faced. You cannot develop that kind of capability on a simulated path. You cannot develop character in the absence of pressure. The pressure is the training. And this is the great reframe that separates the person who grows from difficulty from the person who is merely defeated by it. The person who grows looks at the hard season and asks, what is this making me? What capability am I developing in this difficulty that I could not develop in the easy stretch? The person who is defeated asks, why is this happening to me? When will this stop? Same difficulty, two completely different questions, two completely different trajectories out of it. Ask yourself honestly, is there a difficulty in your life right now that you have been resisting instead of learning from? A challenge that you have been trying to make go away rather than using to make yourself stronger? Because the challenge is not wasted time. The challenge is the curriculum, and the curriculum is personalized. It is exactly what the person you are currently is ready to graduate from, if you are willing to engage it honestly and with the intention of growing rather than surviving. Now understand something important. This does not mean that difficulty is always welcome, or that pain is always good, or that you should be grateful for everything that hurts. It means something more specific and more useful than that. It means that in any difficult season there is a version of you available that is stronger, more capable, more composed, more disciplined, and more wise than the one who entered the season. The difficulty is the passage to that version, and the passage requires that you walk through it, not around it, not under it. not by waiting long enough that it eventually resolves itself, but through it, with intention and with the decision to come out the other side as more than you were when you entered. This is what growth actually looks like in the life of a real person. Not a smooth ascent, not a clean progression from one level to the next, but the willingness to walk through the hard seasons with your character intact and your direction held, and to emerge from the other side as the person who could not have been built any other way. Do not wish it were easier. That is the wish of a person who does not yet understand what they are capable of. Wish you were better. Then do the work that makes it true. And when you look at where you are today and where you are headed, measure it honestly. Not against the life of someone else, not against a fantasy of what should have happened by now, but against the direction and the discipline of your own daily choices. Are you the person you were 6 months ago, or have you become more? Are your habits sharper? Is your mind more focused? Is your character more trustworthy under pressure? If the answer is yes, you are on the path. Keep building. Because success is not a destination you arrive at one morning and stay at forever. It is not a trophy on a shelf. It is the continuous process of becoming the person who is worth more, who thinks more clearly, who acts more deliberately, who handles difficulty more gracefully, who gives more value to the world by virtue of who they are becoming. It is a direction, not a finish line. And the direction is chosen every morning in the first decision you make about how to use the hours of your day. You have the capacity for the person you want to become. Not the version that will arrive later when circumstances improve. The version that starts being built today, in the choices available to you today, in the discipline you can choose to practice today. The magnet gets stronger, one disciplined day at a time. The roots go deeper, one honest hour of private work at a time. The bridge gets built one plank at a time, in the rain and the cold and the ordinary Tuesday when no one is watching and the work happens anyway. Do not chase success. Become the person who attracts it. Every day, in every quiet hour, in every kept promise to yourself, become that person. And one day, without drama or announcement, you will look at your life and you will see exactly what consistent becoming produces. Not luck, not accident. The natural harvest of a life, planted, tended, and grown with discipline, with intention, and with the understanding that the most important project you will ever work on is the person looking back at you in that morning mirror. Start there, stay there, and do not stop.